UFC Fight Night Vegas 12, Hall vs Silva takes place this weekend, and it has an amazing main card, and a lot of people are talking about all the great matchups on the main card and all the amazing names that are on the card, and I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about the prelims, so I'm going to go through in this video the fighters to watch out for at UFC Vegas 12 that I feel like are flying under the radar a little bit, starting with my most promising one and the one I'm most interested by, Mini Masvidal, Adrian Yanez, a very dangerous man, 11-3 is his record, taking on Victor Rodriguez at the upper end of the prelims on this weekend's card. I'm looking forward to it, coming off a big win on the Contender Series, landed the three-piece on Brandy Huang, who has not beaten the best opponents, don't get me wrong, but was still 11-1, and an 11-1 fighter is a dangerous man, so for Adrian Yanez to go out there and destroy him the way he did, I'm paying attention. Not to mention, there is an aspect of the MMA game known as memeability, and if you can become a meme, and whether that meme be because of your fighting skill or because of the fact that you look like mini Jorge Masvidal, then that is what is going to carry you through this UFC company. And I feel like Adrian Yanez is a very dangerous man, and I don't want to be caught up just by the fact that he looks like Jorge Masvidal when he was younger, although he looks exactly like Jorge Masvidal when he was younger, and it makes me question a little bit just how faithful Jorge Masvidal was to his wife back in the early days of his career, because I will say this, maybe Masvidal's been spreading some of that Cuban seed around the place in Miami, but still, Adrian Yanez, very dangerous guy, beat a guy 11-1, beat a guy 10-4, has not got the best wins in his resume so far, but it feels like we're only just starting to get to see him tested against great opponents. He's a young guy, 26, has got a little bit of time before becoming 27 in November. This fight will take place while he is 26 still, so he's got a lot of time to improve and evolve as a fighter. I'm looking forward to his fight against Victor Rodriguez, and I also feel as though a lot of the fighters on these cards have been given a little bit of a freebie against certain opponents, because although Victor Rodriguez is very good, I'm sure, 7-2, good resume, his opponents have other than his last fight against a guy who was 8-1, where he won the fight in second round TKO, which is a good win against a guy who's 8-1, don't get me wrong. Before that, his opponents had a combined record of 3-5, and that's not because there's so little of them. There were 3 guys to begin with that were all making their debut, but all of his opponents that he's won against have a combined record of 3-5, and he's fought 6 of them. And that's a little bit of a problem to me. I know Adrian Yanez has not fought great competition either, but he's at least fought some competition. God, Jesus, I'm definitely going to be going with Adrian Yanez. They've definitely brought in this guy to lose to him, Victor Rodriguez. Great opponent, don't get me wrong, but taking it on short notice. Yanez was supposed to be taking on Aaron Phillips, who was coming off a loss to Jack Shaw, got dominated, but Jack Shaw has been dominating everyone since he started his career, completely undefeated, so I don't blame Aaron Phillips for that. Pulled out of his fight with Yanez. Now Yanez has got a great matchup in Rodriguez. I feel like he's going to get the job done. I mean, Victor Rodriguez has lost to guys who are 2-0 by KO in the first round. I don't think you can be going out there, and especially if you're losing to a guy who is 8-5. I don't think you can go out there against an Adrian Yanez and have a great performance. Now, maybe he's blossomed and bloomed into a great fighter since his last win against a guy who was 8-1. I definitely am going to be going with Adrian Yanez, even though he might have on paper maybe not as much of a credentialed resume. He does have a more credentialed resume, but he's only 11-3. He's lost 3 times, although he has lost 3 times, and twice of those times have been by split decision, which makes it even more a little bit mysterious, okay? Because you look like Masvidal, you sound like Masvidal, okay? You're landing 3-piece combos on people, and you're losing a lot of your fights by split decision. I need to see him in a drive-through saying that McDonald's has great American values, and then maybe we're done, and also maybe assault Leon Edwards backstage, and then you've got the full package. Maybe that's the next things to come. If he does win this fight, I'd like to see him matched up against Leon Edwards backstage after a Fight Night main event, but still, Adrian Yanez, very dangerous opponent. I think he's going to get the win this weekend, and I look forward to seeing him. Plus, these Contender Series guys seem to get jumped forward quite a bit, so if he does win this weekend, expect to see him on the main card against a good opponent. But moving on to another Contender Series guy, Dustin Jacoby, won his fight on the Contender Series in August against Ty Flores. Good opponent, 7-2. Dustin Jacoby looked really good, picked him apart on the feet for 3 rounds, had a close third round with him, don't get me wrong, but was basically torturing him on the feet for for the majority of that fight, and I feel like his stand-up has come such a long way, because this guy, if you don't remember, used to be in the UFC not too long ago, lost his fights in the UFC to Chris Camozzi, 15-5 at the time, and Clifford Stark, 7-0 at the time, was immediately cut, went back to the regional scene, came back, had some fights at Bellator, had some fights at different promotions, then went mainly towards the kickboxing side of things, learned some kickboxing skills, started winning some kickboxing bouts. There was a moment where he beat Carl Roberson in a kickboxing fight by 2 knockdowns in a row that were too brutal for the fight to continue, and they had to stop the fight. He's beaten great opponents in kickboxing, improved his stand-up massively, and also his takedown defense seems very good as well. And I don't see Justin Lede, a guy who does not shoot for takedowns, and I'll read you these stats right now. 0.24 takedowns per round. No, on average ever. In a fight, in a 15-minute fight, 0.24 average takedowns attempted. I don't think he's going to be able to stand with Justin Lede. I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to stand with Dustin Jacoby at all, even though Justin Lede has been good in the UFC, and actually, a lot of people don't remember this, was 3-0 in the UFC at one point against Chase Sherman at heavyweight, Mark Godbeer, Azuna Anyanwu, who was a good opponent as well, won that fight by split decision. As soon as he ran into some good competition in Alexander Rakic, he got dominated against Johnny Walker, got immediately destroyed and chinned in the first round embarrassingly, and then he fought Alexa Kimura, lost that fight as well very clearly, and Alexa Kimura is a guy who just looked more than average against William Knight in his fight afterwards. So I'm definitely going to be going with Dustin Jacoby, picking apart Justin Lede on the feet and defending the takedowns against Lede, who does not shoot for many of them, and if he does, he is not very successful whatsoever. I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby. He's an older guy, but everyone at light heavyweight is a little bit of an older guy anyway, so I don't mind. We'll just rush him forward. If he wins this one, maybe he can take on a guy like Shamil Gamzatov, someone with a lot of steam behind him. Maybe if he wins this one, we do him versus OSP. I'm honestly not even going to stray away from that. We need to rush this guy. He's got some hype. He won on the Contender Series impressively. If he wins this one impressively as well, we've got to start jumping him forward, and it's going to be sink or swim. I think Dustin Jacoby will win his fight against Lede by unanimous decision, maybe even by 3rd round TKO. We'll see how it goes down. The only reason I worry a little bit is because he got tired in his fight against Ty Flores, but he did take that Contender Series fight on short notice. I think he'll win this one by unanimous decision. Moving on up the card to Miles John, which is actually down the card on the opener of the prelims. Miles Johns, multiple of them, there's plural, but still, Chapo, dangerous guy. Miles Johns has a great opponent. I get ahead of him in Kevin Natividad. I say great opponent. He's 9-1, which on paper seems like a great opponent. We'll go into Kevin Natividad's resume in a second. Hopefully he's not watching, because I'm about to fucking expose your ass. Okay? That's going to happen. So wait a second. I'll get to it. But moving on down this guy's resume, beat a guy Cole Smith by split decision, but he was 7-0. Beat Richie Santiago, 7-1. Adrian Yanez, who's also in this Fighters to Watch Out For video and on the card this weekend, beat him by split decision as well, 7-2. So he's a great opponent. Beat Eric Ellington, who was 5-0. Kai Mercado, who was 11-3, 6-2, 7-5, 1-0. Only fought 2 guys making their debut and has an amateur career as well of 4-1. I like Miles Johns. I think he took on a tough opponent in Mario Batista, who's an absolute monster in that division. Has been looking really good as well recently. Went on to beat Yin Su Son, who was 9-3. Lost to Corey Sandhagen, but had good moments in that fight as well, by the way. But still, Juan Pablo Gonzalez, like, Mario Batista's a good opponent. He caught Miles Johns with a flying knee. That can happen to anyone. Miles Johns loses his undefeated record, but still, I'm going to go with Johns against Kevin Natividad. Now let's get to the fucking business. Kevin Natividad. Quicksand Natividad. There's a padded resume here, boys. We've got ourselves a can crusher, okay? And I don't mean to name people that too easily in their career. He did have a long amateur career, a very, very long amateur career. But since becoming pro, I think it's very, very clear this guy has been protected. Fought a guy 0-0, 5-2, very good. Lost to a guy beat a guy 4-6. Lost to a guy 3-2 by KO in the first round. 3-2. KOing you in the first round after your extensive amateur career against cans. But still, beat a guy 0-1 afterwards, back to the centre. Beat a guy 8-7. 8-7. Beat a guy 2-1. Beat a guy by split decision in his last fight against Andy Perez, who was 7-7. Then had some fights signed that would potentially get him towards the UFC, had a bunch of them cancelled, but then came back in 2020 in July and beat Kyle Estrada, who was 10-5. Good record, 10-5 though. That's basically the same as 2-1. And now he's taking on Miles Johns, who's 10-1. I just don't see this going well for Natividad because he has had such a protected career, and every single time he's made a jump up, and by jump up, I mean a guy who's 3-2, by the way, who KO'd him in the first round. I don't like it. I see a guy who went to a split decision with Andy Perez, who's 7-7, who basically at that point in your career, you're not even trying to win or become anything successful. If you're 7-7 and you're still going, I don't know what to say. But still, won a split decision against Andy Perez. You compare that with Miles Johns, who won a split decision against, let me just find out, I believe it was Cole Smith, a 7-0. 7-7 split decision, 7-0 split decision. I think that's night and day how different skill level these guys are. Natividad has a chance to come out there and get the job done. He's not taking this on short notice. He was scheduled to take on an opponent recently, and that recently fell through after he pulled out of the card against Brian Kelleher in September. He's been training for this. I just think that Miles Johns is going to show him the ropes. You know what I mean? Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Those are my fighters to watch out for this weekend. You've got Adrian Yanez, Mini Masvidal. You've got Dustin Jacoby as well, a new light heavyweight contender. And also, Alexander Hernandez is making a comeback fight, okay? He's lost a lot of fights now. Not a lot of them, but he's lost some important fights that would have propelled his career forward. Now 11-3, burst onto the scene against Beneil Dariush, had a big win there. Went on to lose to Drew Dober, beat Francisco Trinaldo with a torn shoulder out of place, which I don't discriminate against whatsoever. If you beat Francisco Trinaldo, period, you're good. If you beat him with one arm, you're even better. Then lost to Drew Dober, had a bit of a problem with the cardio, gassed out massively in the second round as soon as Drew Dober wasn't doing exactly what Hernandez wanted him to do. It just seems to me that Hernandez has a bit of a problem being the nail and moving to a new gym. And that's a huge problem with a lot of guys that train in a secluded gym. They can't be the nail because they've been the hammer in their own little gym this entire time. But now he's moved gyms to Factory X Muay Thai against a lot of great opponents. And if that doesn't get you used to being the nail, I don't know what will. I think he'll beat Chris Guttschmacher, who's a dangerous opponent, 14-3. Good record. Lost a lot of fights against guys that I think Hernandez would do well against, being a lightweight. Guttschmacher, not the biggest of guys in the world either. Fought a featherweight in his career. I'm definitely going to be going with Alexander Hernandez, and I think if he wins this weekend, he should take on Bobby Green. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Thank you for watching. Those are my fighters to watch out for. Toodle Pippington. Goodbye.